Prepare the live stream. Got it. Perfect. It's setting up. So I think it's now live. Thank you. Good morning, good evening, depends where you are. And I just arrived from Hong Kong in Ohio Star Ball right now. I'm Irene Wong. I'm the co-owner of Ballroom dance shop called Danceware Works. And I'm also a pro-am dancer for 16 years. I'm your host for Everything Ballroom channel. Our goal is to share the joy of ballroom dancing and to get more people to learn about this fascinating industry. I hope you like what we do, and please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel, Everything Ballroom. Today, I'm so delighted to have a legend, and that legend is really have a lot of champion experience, a lot of titles, and just to list a few. And he is the UK, of course, Europe, and the World Professional 10 Dance Champions. Definitely. And he also has been British Open, United Kingdom, International World Club Amateur Latin Champions. So you know that, we learn about professional dancers, and we also very interested about pro-am dancing. So invited this guest to be our guest to talk about both. And he also a judge. So it's good to learn from him from a judge point of view as well. So I can't wait to introduce this amazing people. Martin Lamb. Boom, boom, boom. Welcome, Martin.
Good evening, everybody. How are you today?
Let me spotlight. Yes, you. Perfect. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Okay. So before we start, I do want to ask you to share a little bit about you, and maybe you tell us a few things, maybe one thing about you that people don't know about you, to get people to warm up.
A little resume. I mean, you've reeled off some of my titles through my competitive career. I started when I was 9 years old back in the UK. Went through all juvenile, junior, youth, amateur, professional. I retired in 1993. I had to think then, it's a long time ago, that I've been now retired for 30 years from competitive dancing. I live now in the United States. I've been here 25 years.
Same as me.
Came onto the competitive pro-am scene. I did a little bit of pro-am for about 3 years. As a champion, you think your body's used to it, and I think I killed myself many times a week. But it was interesting for me to do, and important for me to do, to understand the whole setup here in America. And now I live in Florida, sunny Florida, as an old person, and loving life in America.
That's one.
Oh, you wanted something that people don't know about me.
Exactly.
What can
any
I say?
embarrassing things that we want to know a little about? Dirty things. Just one thing.
I used to work for the Bank of England.
Ooh. What do you work about? What in the...
Well, I went there from school as a 16-year-old and worked my way through the certain areas of the bank, securities, gold and foreign exchange. So I've seen a lot of money, and a lot of money's gone through my hands. Never stayed in my hands, but when other places. And I actually retired there after 10 years because my professional career was coming along, and I was traveling too much. And they said, "Why are you retiring?" So
that's great.
It's a little thing. And I do potholing and train spotting and flower arranging. I'm joking.
Ooh. You're joking. Okay, I was surprised about that. Okay, that's good. So you can tell his personality, straight talking and funny. Also, the most important question a lot of people ask about the judge is that how do you judge? If I'm a poem dancer, what you judge me about? What should I be care about? Give me some tips. How can I become
Give
a
you some
champion?
tips on how I mark a pro-am or a dancer. Okay. Well, there's a lot of things that goes into the equation, with all your principles of technique and balance and timing and partnering and costuming. So we could go through like 50,000 different scenarios of what the eye looks for. Hopefully the eye has a little bit of knowledge from history. Being a competitor is really important. But it really comes down to when everybody's on the same playing field, same age category or same level of dancer. The instinctive human brain will basically look at body language and expression. So it doesn't, that old fable of we got our fabulous choreography and everything else. It's nothing to do with choreography. So I'll look at body language. I'll understand an expression in the face, and I can tell, as we do every day of our lives, we judge people. Somebody's in a good mood, somebody's in a bad mood, their posture, everything else, and it comes down to then who's looking good and feeling good at that moment. Okay, you're muted, Aaron.
It's
Say
like
that again.
not especially on the technique. Some people thinking you footwork focus. You're more in the connections, the relationship, the performance aspect is more for you.
Yeah, because I don't have time to look at technique. When you come down to it, let's say it's a minute dance and to judge six couples or six people on the floor, you've only got around 10-15 seconds maximum that you're actually looking at one couple at a time. So technique, everybody's roughly got all the good technique. We tend to see bad technique by posture, balance, and timing. So if somebody hasn't got good technique or good foundation down there, those other issues come into play, and that's more visual than me putting my head down. As you know, Irene, I stand in the corner. I have my famous corner, so I don't have to move my head too much. So I get a good whole full spectrum of the floor that I see bodies moving across.
Got it. So that's good. It's more like let's focus then dancing, enjoy the moment, and then get the mood out. Don't bring the negative thinking and thought on the dance.
There's a whole process there, Irene. A whole process. The dancing is much more mind and body. It's not just the body. And 50% of the issues that we come up against are mind issues that we feel negative about something or something's happened, that usually comes from past history. In your last practice of the studio or the last lesson, something went wrong. Your brain will carry that to the competition straight away and will say, oh my gosh, I hope I don't fall over. I hope I remember that step or whatever it is. So it's a lot of mind game.
Right. So that's good reminding me to not think too much about that myself. So this is great. Then the next questions, and a lot of people were thinking, and actually there's also negative in the flows, that some of the judges is pretty unfair. Is a lot of people say, oh, they tend to judge people when they pay for more of the coaching.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's a lot of feelings in that space, right? It's very political, those kind of thoughts. How do you
I think everybody goes through that stage. Even I went through that stage. And when you think about it, everybody's in the same boat.
Right.
Everybody takes coaches, and that's why we have the larger amount of judges when we come to big competitions. So that if there is anything political, it's actually a wash both ways. So it politics will always come. The human side of politics will always come involved in it. If I know somebody, if I've seen somebody, if I know results, obviously that's always in your subconscious mind. But if you ask my couples, I'm probably the worst judge for them. So because you tend to see that the faults that was in the lesson, oh, and they haven't done it right again. So, and not that I'd mark them bad or good from it, just the fact that it can work in a negative scenario. If and the more coaches you have, the more negative you will become, because your brain will not be able to coincide one coach from the next. That's why it's always a great thing. And I know the Fred Astaire chain does it, that they bring certain coaches into the studio and they're the same coaches. So if you're a amateur couple or a professional couple, then it's on your head to where you go to have your coachings. But even then, you've got to get to a certain level of who's my team? How am I going to pick? And the team should be only around about one for technician, one for presentation, one for choreography, and one for coaching. So 4 or 5 can be really good for you. And politics, the human side of it will always come involved, but everybody else is in the same boat, which is a good thing.
This is very surprised me. Because I thought a lot of people said, oh, you need to get a lot more coaches, and then you learn from different coaches. So from you basically said, better focus and don't confuse yourself, because every coach have different style, and then you might get confused.
I think it all depends on where you are on your journey as a dancer. Obviously, in the beginning, get as much information as possible, get as many coaches as possible. Then when you're starting to understand things and your journey gets a little bit further on, if you're a competitor, then you would start to pick and choose who your main team is. As a student, and this is what a lot of students misunderstand, is that when a coach will come into a studio, basically that coach is given information to the teacher. The student's listening to it. So the teacher then can go on in the future to rehash that information to you time and time again. You know, us coaches come in and we give you 1,000 ideas in 5 minutes.
Right. Trying to get that, right?
So it's understanding the whole journey of it. When do I need somebody else? Yeah, as the beginning, get as many as possible, so then you can find out who's on your wavelength. Just because you're a great competitor or a world champion and you're a great dancer, that doesn't mean you're a good fix,
right?
Or a good fit with one another.
The chemistry or the style,
very much
how
so.
you okay, that make a lot of sense. So for our program, so we in the beginning we're trying to get more coaches. Makes sense. So this is really good insight for us. So also as a judge for you, do you tend to go with the status quo, or do you look to shake things up a little bit in your judging?
You're trying to get me in trouble now, aren't you, Irene?
I tend to like that. Get into those things.
Am I status quo? No, from an early age of judging, to judge the British Open Championship, you go in the judges' room. There's a statement that they give you: judge without fear or fortune, and make sure that you judge on the night. And basically, that's what I try to do every time I go out there. I want to give back to those. I know what it's like to think it's all political. I know what it's like to, you know, be the champion and I hope nobody beats me. And, you know, all these scenarios that go through your head. I really judge in that moment. You know, so you'll get a couple saying, "Oh, you were really great for me," and then the next time I'm not so good. So I'm unreliable in that sense.
That's great, which
you,
is
you
good.
you can't guarantee a mark from me.
Which
I don't
is
know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I think that's make it a little bit fair. You know, you because a competitor, I know sometimes I perform well, sometimes I don't, right? So I know how it happens. So it's good that at least it tends to be. I prefer not political and consistent as a status quote. So I have a chance to break. So that's good for me.
I think that, you know, sometimes the competitor will see the political side of it, or oh yeah, well they're always the champion, they're going to get marked first, and everything else. But that's not the case in the majority of people's eyes. The people I talk to, and I talk to a lot of these judges. So.
Good. That's a good assurance, hopefully. Hopefully. So, and the next question is that when the pressure is intense to make the final and then on to the place well in the final, I really want to place well on a final. What are some strategy you use yourselves as a couple to stand out from the pack? Pick me as a champion. So what is your strategy? What
Well, again, there's a massive equation here. As a competitor, I've got no control over anybody liking me or disliking me. What I have got control over is how I'm performing. What's my belief system? Do I like what I look like on the floor? Am I okay with the routine? Am I okay with my partner? Is everything in order before I get to the competition? There's a whole scenario there. So when a good statement that was told to me earlier on is, win the championship in the studio, pick the trophy up at the competition. So basically, when we get to a competition, I don't want to think about anything, just performing. You'll see. It's quite a funny thing that you'll see a competitor dance, and then they retire, and then they do a show, and then everybody goes, "Well, why didn't you dance like that in the competition?" There's a lot of pressure on a competitor because subconsciously and consciously, we're thinking of all the negative things that could go wrong. And we only need one to, you know, disqualify, you know, the thousands of positive things that are right. I'm worried about the judges. I'm worried about, am I going to perform right? I'm worried about the floor. I'm worried about the other couples. I'm worried about, you know, am I going to get the result tonight? Rather than, this is my goal. I believe my goal. I'm going to put that on the floor no matter what it is. If it doesn't work tonight, let me start to understand my surroundings and what it was, take it back to the drawing board and go, okay, well, this wasn't right, this was right. So I'm building this pyramid of all the negatives to get them out of the way. So I get to my final, this is what I've got to do on the competition floor.
So basically, you said no strategy is a strategy. Basically, try just do what you have been doing.
That's all you can do. You can't change anything on the day. Your body's not used to it. Huh?
Don't overthinking, just go.
Well, yeah, I mean, that again, you got to realize that everybody else is in the same boat. The negative thoughts that we have as competitors, the other competitors have got as well. Even as a champion, they may just have different negatives that they're thinking about. You may be trying to get into the final, that the person who's winning saying, I hope I don't get beaten by the second couple. So
okay.
It's out of your hands. It's in the lap of the gods.
How can you not thinking? It's
See,
hard.
I name myself as a god now. Oh my gosh.
We report that. Yes, in the record. For oh my God. Okay, so another one is could be political and get you into trouble. But got to need to ask. There is a few federations for ballroom dancing, right? Ballroom dance was already is pretty niche, smaller world. I also learned that there's a different federation and different judges, different ruling. What do you see of that? Can we not be able to bring the whole family together and all have the same category, same ruling, then we all happily ever after?
In a perfect world,
kind
yes.
of. But you don't see that happening.
But the world is not perfect. We have a lot of people power struggles, want to be the best or the top of something, and sometimes, and I'm not saying one is worse than the other one, but it always comes into what I think is because we're in such a world and business of performance. That's all we do 24/7. I've got to perform and I've got to be liked. If I'm liked, I'm a happy bunny. And sometimes it's always happened. It happened when we were competing, from all different societies and different countries. I mean, each country has gone through many federations or a federation fighting the original federation. They could do it better. I think that will always be there. But hopefully, it doesn't destroy the competitive mind. I've talked to some pro couples, and they just said, oh, "Okay, well, I'm not going to dance it because that's their profession." And I think I try to keep out of that political world as much as possible. And if somebody asks me, I don't know. I plead the fifth. I've lived in America too long.
I suspect you were going to go that route.
No, I just
in trouble.
I don't want to get mixed up with the nitty gritty or the I am better or you're not so good and this way's better. You know what? It's important that we allow our business to thrive no matter who's in power in these organizations. Is if we don't have the competitors, we don't have a business. It's as simple as that.
Right. So, ideally, if you are in power, what would you do?
Give it to somebody else.
Too tough the question to okay,
really. I'm getting too old for all that bickering between everybody. I think obviously, if you're the person in power and if you've got a good heart and soul and you don't want anything in return, it could be amazing. But human beings are always going to be human beings. We always want something for something.
So if you are that person,
right,
like you say, no return, you're in power, what would you want to happen?
I would want everybody to be on the same page, and to be on the same page is perfect world would be nothing to do with money. As soon as money has come involved, and I think that the business has evolved into a big money pot as well, from where it originally came from, and that's where it destroys a lot of people. So, it would have to be a position of not receiving any money and getting a panel of people from all walks of our business life, from the competitor to the studio owner to the judge, and sit everybody down. What's your likes? What's your dislikes? How can we go forward?
Go ahead.
So, but I don't know if we'll get there because there's a lot of money involved.
So yes, it's not going to be NGO soon. Okay, that's thank you so much for that. I know I put you in a very difficult question area. I know you'll be a straight talker.
I mean, the good thing about it is I'll never be in it, so I'm happy.
Right, at least you're trying to avoid it. So it's good. So now, maybe the time is getting closer to the end. I want to, maybe you can give a little bit opinions if you have some advice for a pro-am competition competitor like us. What would you be the biggest advice for us, or to the people? Maybe two questions. One is for competitors, the biggest advice to get the best out of us, and we'll ask the second part later. Maybe finish this one first.
Well, I think that a good direction to take for any pro-am dancer is make sure you're enjoying what you're doing. And if stress is coming involved in it, sit down, rethink how can you change that. A good plan of action to become a competitor starts from good programming of lessons, good programming of practice, understanding what your main principles are to practice, and then when you are practicing and getting ready for a competition, is I cannot practice technique and performance at the same time. I really want to separate them as much as possible. And I want to try to understand the technique at an earlier date, and the performance nearing the competition, as in stamina, rounds, feel good factor, no negativity. So you're taking that information into a competition. Understand where the competition is. Making sure that everything's on time, getting your dress ready or your outfit ready well on time, making sure you've packed all your makeup, your dance shoes. Make sure you eat well. Make sure you sleep well. Make sure that there's no negativity on the day, and make sure you get up on time. There are so many factors that's got nothing to do with the actual physical dancing. Train your body in the studio, train your mind out of the studio, so that when you come to the stressful part of it, and try to, I know it's difficult if a student's listening to this, to get their instructors to listen to them. I know what those instructors are like. Is just taking one thought process to a competition, what they've been working on. It may be, okay, performance. It may be connection. It may be musicality. But try not to take too many thoughts to correct or rectify anything at the competition. It's just too late in the day. So that journey is planned out well before. As I said, training in the studio, you make sure you win that competition and just pick up the trophy when you get to that. So make sure you're comfortable on the dance floor. Make sure you're in a good mood with the instructor. Make sure you're on the same wavelength. It's always an important thing.
Cool. So before I ask the last question, I want to prep the audience. If you have any question for Martin, he said all questions are okay. Raise your hand, and Ellie, you can unmute them, and then you guys can ask the questions yourself. Okay. So the last question is for all the audience, the normal people. Ballroom dancing is quite expensive in a lot of people's mind, right? What do you tell them that they should join and participate in this amazing sport? At least to me, it's amazing, but what will you tell them?
Well, I think the onslaught of they see numbers, and they see dollar signs or pound signs or Japanese yen signs, whatever it may be. But if somebody loves a sport or a hobby so much, you can go into golf. How much do people spend on a driver? And I'm going to replace that driver every 3 months. How much does it cost to play on Augusta, or the Players Championship course, things like that. If you love something so much, money doesn't come involved in it. Obviously, you can have a good way of, not spending too much at the same time. You can do it over a period of time, and do what is comfortable for you. Obviously, nobody wants to go into debt because they've maxed all the credit cards out. But if it makes your heart sing and it makes you a better person and you're healthy from it, and when you really look at our business, it that has so many attributes about health. It's better to sometimes go to a dance studio than a doctor. Your instructor or your coach will probably tell you how to you should be doing something before the doctor will. So when you come to it, you can go to a doctor and spend $500 just to say hello to him. At least if you come to me, it's not $500, and I'll make you feel good.
That's a wonderful start. I really believe this is, I'm very passionate about dancing. So that's why I have this channel, and I really would love more people to explore and experience it. So thank you so much for your time. I got a lot out of it. But before we end, anyone else on the audience have questions? Raise your hand. And okay, Carol and Bill, of course, unmute yourself.
There you go, Bill. Oh, you're muted again, Bill.
Try one more time. You muted again.
Okay. All right. This will be a breathtakingly stupid question, but as Martin knows, he's coached me before and I'm capable of asking dumb questions. But I heard you emphasize performance. I've taken hundreds of lessons, probably thousands of lessons, many, if not all, on technique. Do this, do that correctly, frame, where's the head? I don't remember any on performance. And I recognize that performance is key. When I watch professionals dance, I see a huge difference between the professionals dancing and even the top amateurs in Pro-Am. Some of them are very good in terms of performance, but there's a world-class difference between the amateurs and the professionals. It's not, my wife is correcting me saying, oh, it's technique. It's not just technique. It's the facial expressions, the intensity. I've been dancing for 10 years. Have I been getting performance lessons and I just don't know it?
I think a Pro-Am dancer gets a little bit difficult to do the performance side of it, because there may be too many people in the studio at one time. So we don't want to kill Matilda at 95 years old as you do your quick step going around the floor. But no, I would suggest that if you could talk to your instructor and say, can I just do 5 minutes to dance my 5 routines, whatever style it may be, so you're getting stamina up. That's that would be the only way to get around this. Yes, they're giving you direction, they're taking you on the journey, but if you're this is what you've got to be very careful with as a student. You are the customer, remember that. So not that you're always right, but you are the customer. So we want to give you as much direction as possible. So I would suggest that just mention, is it possible that we could do a couple of rounds every now and again? I mean, you could also do it on your own.
Okay.
You could practice on your own, or I would say practice with Carol, but you're going to be wrong if you practice with Carol. You know that.
Well, sometimes I notice in all, I dance several styles, but in standard, what I notice above all is in quick step, the faces that the men make. So I will tell my
Goofiest.
I will scare my partner to death as we go in a competition on the dance floor. And I say, after she's told me several times, frame, make sure you lower, make sure you don't open too much. I'll say, is it okay if I make faces? Quick step faces. And she literally is ready to kill me. And you talked about being in the same plan, have the same plan as your partner. That sort of destroys the whole partnership plan and creates a new one.
The faces have to be very natural. And I mean,
she makes that point.
A face is a reflection of a feeling. So if you're making weird faces, you're probably hurting in different places of your body.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Well, we can discuss this at the next coaching. I'll make faces and you'll see what Marissa and Yulia do.
Well, Marissa will kill you anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yes, she will.
She's tried many times.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much.
Pleasure, Will.
Thank you for your questions. Any other questions? I couldn't see the live one, so I will check on that if there's more questions, and I will get back to Martin and then answer back to people. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful, Martin, and you have been very honest, and then your insight is very useful. I hope more people will get the same insight as well. Thank you.
Pleasure. Have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you. And again, this is the channel for Everything Ballroom. If you like what you see, please give us thumbs up and follow our channel. Thank you and have a good night.